The three convened in a dingy alley. The Lord Wind Master, Shi Zuan, admitted that he did expect them to be caught, but not this early in the investigation. He scolded Chu for his impulsive action. His impulsiveness could have caused conflict between the heavenly court and the ghost realm. Chu apologized, but he justified his actions by the fact that if he did not take action, then no one would. He is conscientious of the gambler's competitors and daughter. I agree with him. There's a saying that evil triumphs when good men do nothing. Their conversation was halted by a horrified scream from deep within the alley. A vicious voice was heard exclaiming that they finally caught the masked child. Another encouraged the others to beat him up again. It appears that the child stole food from them, and they felt no pity for him. Cut the boy some slack. The child cowered in fear as the group of men kicked him mercilessly. Xie Lian recognized the child as the boy from Eugene Mountain and promptly came to his rescue, to the surprise of the other heavenly officials. The men were startled by the appearance of the white-clad Taoist, and Xie Lian immediately dodged the thugs to get to the child. He held onto the child's arm, asking him if he was all right. One of the thugs spat on the ground and asked Xie Lian where he came from. Xie Lian ignored the thugs to assess the child's well-being. He asks the child if he can stand and reassures him that he is now safe. The boy screamed at seeing Xie Lian's face and jumped to his feet. He quickly ran off, away from his supposed savior. Now, that's an interesting reaction. Xie Lian went after the child. As he passed by his companions, he hurriedly asked them to take care of the thugs after him. Sometimes, it's good to delegate. Long Qianchu watched Xie Lian go. As he faces the angry mob, he shares a baffled look with the Lord Wind Master. Xie Lian enters a more populated part of Ghost City. He quickly lost the child as he struggled to navigate through the throng of Ghost City residents and visitors. Up ahead, flying fiery fishes similar to the ones outside the gambler's den can be seen floating from a distance. Xie Lian squeezed through the crowd comprised of ghosts, demons, mythical creatures, and a little guy riding a chicken. I wonder if there's a Chinese folklore involving a tiny person riding a chicken. Finally, the crowd disperses as most are headed in the same direction. Xie Lian looked on at the dispersing crowd and let out a sigh. With Xie Lian's instinct as a god, he was alerted by the dark, foreboding aura emanating from the building where the crowd came from. He stood in front of a mansion's entryway with Paradise Manor engraved upon its looming gate. That's the place Wacheng said he would go to. Singing can be heard from inside the manor. Lanterns decorate the manor, emanating bright lights. It's as if a grand celebration is happening inside the manor. A dancer exotically moves along with the music. She is enticingly dressed in revealing clothes, her beautiful face covered by a golden mask. Her beauty did not stand out, as the other dancers are equally beautiful and enticing. Dancers artfully grace the Hall of Paradise Manor, but their performance is of no interest to the lord who owns the mansion. His attention is taken by the tiny golden palace that he's assembling. He casually sits upon a throne decorated in red silk with one leg up, his red coat flung haphazardly beneath him. He speaks in a sultry voice, inviting His Highness, the Crown Prince of Xian, to come in. Welcome to Sanlong's crib, Xie Lian. The Ghost King, Crimson Rain Sought Flower, looked on at the moon gate in anticipation. He was met with silence from behind the beaded curtains. He smiled to himself. He deliberately pushed the miniature castle made from golden foil to the floor. He must have spent hours doing that, and he just destroyed it without a thought. As pieces of the golden foil bounced on the stairs, he leisurely descended his throne dais one step at a time. He walked across the hall, past the dancers, and parted the beaded curtain. He called for his Gigi, standing beside the moon gate, and invited him in to sit with him. He escorted Xie Lian inside the manor with a hand on his shoulder. My heart can't take it. That's almost a hug. The dancers looked on, wondering who this man is that their lord treats very well. With a wave of his hand, the onlookers dispersed from the hall. When Xie Lian finally faced Sanlong, he conveyed that he came to ask him a favor. Xie Lian need not finish his sentence as Wacheng knows that Xie Lian wanted to find the bandaged boy. Wacheng is one step ahead of him as he already sent someone to look for the boy. Xie Lian's sweat dropped at Sanlong's kindness. He shyly thanked Sanlong for his kindness, which the lord of the manor brushed off as nothing. Sanlong patted the seat beside him, urging Xie Lian to sit. Xie Lian carefully obliged him as Sanlong asked if he left his comrades behind. Xie Lian apologized on behalf of Lan Qianchu and explained that it is in the martial god's nature to save the lives of the people that the greedy gambler had been playing with. Sanlong does not seem to mind. He does not see the situation as troublesome. However, he commented that Long Qianchu is inexperienced in handling such affairs. When choosing between adding years to your life and taking away years off the enemy, people who pick the latter are the resentful ones. Many people would dream of living a long life rather than taking other people's lives. Concerned that Sanlong is playing a dangerous game, Xie Lian felt compelled to warn him of the impending dangers of such business. He worries that San Long may catch the attention of heaven when something severe happens. San Long simply told Xie Lian that he should not worry. His ghost city may be a place of corruption akin to hell, but heaven officials come here for its debauchery and the promise of unspeakable things. Although they may pretend to resent evil, they themselves come to the ghost city to play. Even if it's not Huacheng, another will come to take his place. Instead of letting another rule this place, it is best if Huacheng takes control. Although apprehensive, Xie Lian stayed quiet. A jingle is heard as the beaded curtain swayed. A voice called out for its lord, announcing that the boy was found. That was fast. The palace of Ling Wen spent a lot of time looking for this boy and found nothing. San Long found him in minutes. It was a man draped in black robes. His hair is long, and he wears a mask. His head bowed in servitude. Huacheng ordered him to bring in the boy. Holding the scruff of the boy's neck, the waning moon officer, Yin brought the boy up to the raised platform where his lord and honored guest sat. He presents the bandaged boy to his lord. As Yin lets go of the boy, Xie Lian notices a cursed shackle concealed in the man's vambraces. He must be a fallen god, just like what Xie Lian was. Concerned with the child's well-being, Xie Lian approached the child to look at his wounds. At seeing Xie Lian's face, the child screamed in fear and cowered at the foot of the dais. As Xie Lian followed the scared child, the waning moon officer respectfully bowed low to him and Huacheng and left. Xie Lian watched him go in silence but decided that the child's well-being should be addressed first. He knelt down and asked the boy what his name is. The child's mumbling was incomprehensible. San Long observed that the boy must be unable to communicate as he had no one to talk to for a long time. Xie Lian encouraged the boy to speak more slowly and to take his time. The boy finally peeked through his fingers and finally uttered a name. Ying. Xie Lian realized that the name is in honor of the girl who protected him at Eugene Mountain, Xiao Ying. After some thought, he asked the child if he came from the country of Xianle, to which the child shook his head and told him that he came from Yang'an. Shocked that he has deep connections with this child from the past, Xie Lian grabbed Ying and insistently asked if he knew about White No Face. He desperately held the boy's arm, which scared the boy. San Long walked closer to the two as Xie Lian came to his senses and let the child go. It must have been so traumatic for Xie Lian. Huacheng extended his hand to Xie Lian, supporting the slumped former crown prince as he stood up. With a gentle voice, he advises Xie Lian to hold off the questions and to get some much-needed rest. Brushing him off as he stands up, he lets out a sigh as he controls his trembling body. The thought that this child may have met White No Face brings up traumatizing memories to Xie Lian. After composing himself, he pats the boy on his shoulder and comments that the boy chose the name of the girl who saved his life. Xie Lian is glad that he chose her name for himself. The boy also needs a surname and tells him that the national surname of Yang'an is Long, thus naming the boy Long Ying. Xiao Ying leaves behind a legacy in this boy. Her kindness lived on. The boy looked at him hesitantly. As a dying wish, Xiao Ying left him to Xie Lian's care, a responsibility that Xie Lian accepted. As the kind cultivator he is, he wanted to ask the child's opinion if he would like to join Xie Lian in his cultivation. Xie Lian laid out that his current position in life is not the best but enough for Long Ying to no longer need to steal food and get beaten up for it. The child's stomach growled loudly at the mention of food, wanting to be fed. With no food on his person, Xie Lian looked up at the owner of Paradise Mansion, silently seeking help in feeding his new charge. San Long quickly obliged, and with a snap of his fingers, servants scurried in to bring them food. In the dining hall, Xie Lian thanked San Long for his generosity. A myriad of sumptuous food was laid out before them for their dining pleasure. For a young man who is consistently starved, the newly named Long Ying held himself back from devouring the food in front of him. Xie Lian filled up a bowl and handed it over to the child. Seemingly unable to believe the sumptuous food he is now able to partake in, the boy slowly gulped and took a bite of the food. After the first taste, Long Ying can't stop himself from gorging himself. He's just so hungry. As Xie Lian watched the boy enjoy his food, he surmised that Long Ying is probably about 100 years old and wonders if this can be considered a blessing or a curse. As Long Ying gorges on a piece of chicken, Xie Lian is reminded of another boy he met in the past. His thoughts were interrupted by San Long handing him a cup of wine. Not paying attention, Xie Lian accepted the cup and took a sip. From the corner of his eye, one of the female servants gave him a flirtatious wink. Realizing that it is none other than the Lord Windmaster, Xie Lian spat out his drink. Worried for the fallen crown prince, San Long asked if the alcohol did not suit his palate. Coughing from the shock of alcohol running down his throat, Xie Lian explained that part of his cultivation forbids the consumption of alcohol. San Long apologized for not considering Xie Lian's cultivation. Xie Lian admitted to the fault as it was he who was not paying attention. San Long took this opportunity to ask Xie Lian more about his cultivation. He explains that he is under the impression that cultivation is about achieving a carefree and pleasurable life. If one has to withhold from partaking in certain things, wouldn't it be better to not cultivate? Xie Lian smiled at him knowingly. Xie Lian explained that there are many cultivation paths, and one's goal may vary from the other. Xie Lian further elaborated that his cultivation allows the occasional alcohol. However, promiscuity is a big no-no. San Long looked at Xie Lian with an unreadable expression on his face. I bet he's disappointed. Apart from alcohol and promiscuity, there is another rule. Xie Lian's cultivation also forbids hatred. Xie Lian tells San Long that the gambler's den is an emotionally charged place. Therefore, it is common to feel hatred at such a place. With this logic, Xie Lian must also avoid it to not feel hatred. However, if one does not care about winning or losing, then Xie Lian does not need to avoid the gambler's den, as wins and losses are beneath him. On a side note, Xie Lian complimented San Long for his excellent gambling skills. His luck is uncanny, while Xie Lian's is just plain terrible. San Long offered to share his luck with Xie Lian to guarantee his victory each and every time. San Long extended his right hand with the middle finger tied with a red string. He asked for Xie Lian's hand. His actual hand, guys. Don't get excited. Xie Lian obliged, albeit with a questioning look on his face. After a brief touch of their palms, San Long dropped 2 red dice on the table and urged Xie Lian to give it a try. Xie Lian took the dice and rolled them. The result is astounding. 2 sixes. San Long explained that this result is what he aimed to achieve. He explains that just like spiritual powers, one can lend one's luck to another. He offers to lend his luck to Xie Lian should he need to gamble against anyone. Xie Lian held the dice while looking at San Long appreciatively. As the evening wore on, Xie Lian started to get tired, and he rubbed between his eyes to stave off the sleepiness. Always attentive to Xie Lian's well-being, San Long offered to take him to a room to rest. Xie Lian realized that he still had matters to address and accepted San Long's offer, afraid that his new benefactor would disappear. Long Ying grabs Xie Lian's robes in desperation. This momentarily surprised Xie Lian, but he realized the boy's concern. Seeing this, San Long gave the boy a disapproving look but assured Xie Lian that the boy will be taken care of and that he will see him again in the morning after Long Ying gets cleaned up. The child looked up to him with pleading eyes while Xie Lian eyed him with understanding. He patted the child's head and instructed him to have his fill and to have a good rest. He promised to see him again in the morning. Long Ying reluctantly lets go and watches him leave with San Long. As they left the banquet hall, San Long suggested that Xie Lian can leave the boy in Ghost City with him, citing that it will be no big deal to feed another person. With how rich San Long is, I bet it's no biggie. Xie Lian declined the offer as he had not fulfilled most of his promise to the boy. Xie Lian thanks San Long for finding the boy for him and does not wish to trouble him further. Xie Lian's thoughts were brought back to the boy. He thinks that in the boy's current state, there are only a few people who would want to guide him, considering that the child seems to have lost the ability to communicate, and his mind is unclear. Xie Lian let out a sigh. San Long leads him to a door. The Lord of Ghost City tells him that he will not find it troublesome to extend his help to Xie Lian. He granted Xie Lian permission to go wherever he wants within his mansion. Would that include the master's bedroom? Like a good host, he tells Xie Lian to seek him out if he needs help and not to worry about anything. As Xie Lian steps inside the room, he is affronted by an unusual sight. A lone red eye opens to glare at him. Its body is of a saber that seems to vibrate at the sight of Xie Lian. San Long introduced the saber as Yiming. Xie Lian greeted the sword, which seemed to brighten up at being addressed by Xie Lian. It swayed side to side in contentment. San Long tells Xie Lian that the saber likes him as Yiming wouldn't even spare a glance at people it doesn't like. Xie Lian looked at the saber with interest, as it's rare to find a weapon this expressive. For me, I'd say it's freaky to find a sword that has a life of its own. How this sword acts differs from what Fu Yao and Nan Feng described. Those two shivers at the mention of Yiming. San Long further explained how rare it is for Yiming to like someone. Xie Lian looks back at San Long, delighted that he garnered the approval of a formidable sword. Xie Lian extended his hand to pat the saber like one would a doggy. Like a puppy wagging its tail, Yiming vibrated with excitement. Saber and Heavenly Official went at it, expressing their newborn like for each other. San Long watched Xie Lian's budding friendship with his sword. He finally put a halt to their meet and greet and ordered his saber to come back once it's done with its work. He roughly grabbed the sword with one hand and told Xie Lian that he can rest in this room while he attends to some tasks. Xie Lian agreed and allowed San Long to take his leave. Xie Lian let out another sigh. The Ghost King's kindness bears on his conscience as he hopes that San Long is not involved in the appearance of the fire dragon. He vows to apologize to San Long once the investigation is over. As Xie Lian moves to sit at the table, a quiet whisper is heard calling for him. He walks to the door, and when he opens it, he is greeted by the female servant, who appears to be wary. It's the one who brazenly winked at him. It was Lord Wind Master in disguise. He opens the door to let his comrade in the room. As the Lord Wind Master enters, he asks him or her where Long Qianchu is. He is worried that Lord Taiwan may act rashly when left to his own devices. Lord Wind Master assured him that Long Qianchu will stay put as the Lord Wind Master pulled rank with Long Qianchu to get him to obey. Xie Lian accepted this explanation, assured that Long Qianchu will not cause trouble. He tells the Lord Wind Master that their main task at hand is to look for evidence. As he turns his attention towards the Lord Wind Master, he was greeted by a funny sight. The Lord Wind Master transformed to his male form and is pulling haphazardly at the sleeves of his clothing, irritated by how tight the clothes are. He tears at the clothes, exposing his flat chest, and complains that the clothes are suffocating him. Those clothes are meant for a petite woman. What did he expect? Xie Lian tried calming him down, suggesting that he should change into his cultivation robes. The Lord Wind Master snarkily reasoned that wearing white in the middle of the night will make him a standout. Xie Lian face-palmed, keeping to himself that the Lord Wind Master already stands out with the way he is dressed now. Finally able to breathe after removing the corset-like clothing around the chest, the Lord Wind Master stood tall as he invites Xie Lian to investigate Paradise Manor. In the dark of night, underneath a red moon, a Taoist dressed in white moves around, keeping himself in the shadows. He bends beside a bush as he lurks in the gardens of Paradise Manor, looking for clues. He wonders how the Lord Wind Master is faring and hopes that his comrade does not meet the manor's master. Beyond the moon gate that separates the garden from the main residence, he sees the one who brought the child, Long Ying, to him. The man seems to be sneaking around, which Xie Lian finds suspicious as this man is supposed to be San Long's subordinate. Yeah, why would one need to sneak around? Unless they're going to a place they're not supposed to go. A hand taps his back. It was the Wind Master finally done with his round. The Wind Master asks how it is on Xie Lian's end, and Xie Lian promptly shushed him. He turns his attention back to where the Moon Officer is, but Yin Yu already disappeared. Xie Lian tells the Lord Wind Master to investigate with him beyond the Moon Gate. As they followed any trace they could find of the Moon Officer, the Lord Wind Master asked Xie Lian if he's sure that the ghost went this way. He peers between the slats of the folding doors, and there appears to be no hidden passage or secret rooms. Everything looks normal. With a thoughtful look, Xie Lian looks in a different direction from where the Wind Master is peering. He appears to be deep in thought. He surmises that the lock to this building is not an actual key, but rather it is locked with magic. He stares at a statue of a woman holding an empty plate. Xie Lian tells the Wind Master that they may need a password or a magical key to unlock the manor's secrets. The Wind Master asks Xie Lian what their next course of action is. He wonders if they met a dead end and has to stop their investigation when they haven't discovered anything yet. He can't believe how unlucky they are to not find anything. The word luck rings a bell to Xie Lian. He reaches inside his robes and produces 2 red glowing dice in his open palms. He throws the dice on the plate held by the statue. The Lord Wind Master looks at him with mild interest as he leans against the door. When Xie Lian threw the dice, a clack was heard behind the Wind Master as the door opens. The Wind Master was astounded that Xie Lian's guess is correct. So, Hua Cheng practically handed Xie Lian the master key to his mansion. When they entered, they were met with a long stairway leading to the bottom pits of the manor. Xie Lian led the way down the stairs, taking one step at a time. Xie Lian shares with the Wind Master how guilty he is for taking advantage of San Long's kindness. He shares how generous San Long has been by lending him his luck, yet Xie Lian uses it to sneak around his manor. He sighed at the awkward position he is in, as they are already in too deep figuratively and literally. They might as well proceed with the investigation. The Lord Wind Master understood Xie Lian's predicament and observed that Crimson Rain Sought Flower appears to be sincere in his friendship with Xie Lian. He comments that if he were in Xie Lian's position, he will not accept the job even if the Heavenly Emperor begs him. Xie Lian wished that he will get a chance to apologize to San Long. The Wind Master opened his palm to summon a flame to light their way. They seem to encounter a dead end. The hall is blocked off, and the Wind Master thinks that he may have to punch through the wall. Xie Lian advises against it since the sound of smashing through the wall will resound throughout the manor and will alert its inhabitant. This silenced the Wind Master for a while. Understanding Xie Lian's logic and frustration, he commented that he won't be able to punch through it cleanly even if he tries. The wall appears to be 10 feet thick. Why is that wall so thick? As Xie Lian looks down, he finds a drawing etched on one of the tiles adorning the floor. It is that of a child happily playing with dice. Xie Lian calls the attention of the Wind Master to show him the drawing on the floor. The Wind Master illuminates the drawing with the flame on his hand and wonders if this door will have the same mechanism as the one above. Xie Lian ponders if the door will only open if the dice thrown will give the result of the correct number combination. The Wind Master replied that it may be the case if they refer to what's depicted in the drawing. Xie Lian thinks that the correct number may not be 2 6s like what they got previously. The Wind Master advised that they could just throw the dice randomly. As they've already come this far, it won't be wise to go back to examine the dice. Worried that his borrowed luck may have ran out, Xie Lian handed the dice to the Wind Master. He believes that the Wind Master will have better luck than him. I have a feeling that Xie Lian should be the one to throw the dice. The Lord Wind Master confidently took on the task and took the dice from Xie Lian. With the confidence of an avid gambler, he shook the dice in his hands and threw the dice on the floor. With a resounding clack, the dice presented its verdict. Excitedly, the Lord Wind Master lit up his flame to view the result. It was a 2 and a 5. Not so unlucky, but not so great. Xie Lian decided to take it upon himself to throw the dice. As he was about to pick up the gambling instruments, he was stopped by the Wind Master. The tile on the floor depicting a child playing dice glowed. Something is happening. The drawing appeared to be changing. The two heavenly officials were baffled as the image changed to that of a worm. They cannot decide if it is an earthworm or a leech. Xie Lian decided that it is an earthworm as he'd seen a lot of worms in the fields. His tone and awkward laugh seemed like he did more than farming to encounter so many worms. The Wind Master wondered what kind of odd jobs the Crown Prince experienced to encounter a lot of earthworms. If hot dogs existed in ancient China, I'd place my bet on a hot dog meat supplier. Before the Wind Master could finish asking his question, the tiles below them opened, and the two cultivators fell into the abyss below. Down the rabbit hole, the two cultivators fell until they finally slammed gracelessly face down on the ground. It appears to be a large cavern with jagged walls, floors, and ceilings. As they coughed to catch their breaths, they wondered what kind of place they landed in. The Wind Master wondered if this is the result of throwing the wrong numbers on the dice. Xie Lian agreed that this may be the case. As the two struggled to get their bearings, Xie Lian observed their surroundings. He looked up and noticed that the tile that led them to this cavern is no longer visible. It appears that they cannot go back from the way they came in. Their only option is to continue moving until they find an exit. The Wind Master pinched his nose as the smell within this cavern was unpleasant. Xie Lian suggested walking along the tunnel and seeing where it leads them. The Wind Master cannot stand the smell in the cavernous hole that he almost threw up. As they walked, Xie Lian would duck his head to avoid hitting the overgrown roots and jagged rocks that hang from the roof of the cave. He urges the Wind Master to bear with the smell and to walk faster. The faster they move, the faster they can get out of this place. Xie Lian has a bad feeling in this cave. Drops of falling water are heard, then a tremor. Xie Lian let out a sigh as he moved forward slightly, at ease that his senses might be wrong. As he stepped on a puddle, a loud rumble was heard. From behind Xie Lian, the cave's wall broke down as a large appendage slammed into the opposite wall. What is that? The two looked behind in alarm, only to be disgusted by the monster hell-bent on devouring them. Xie Lian's sweat dropped while the Wind Master totally freaked out. Can't blame him. The creature is indeed a giant earthworm. Its slimy body squeezed its way in the cavernous tunnel, clearly after them. Another earthworm appears from the front. They are trapped. Run. Thank goodness that real earthworms are not that big. Xie Lian was able to keep his wits together and warned the Wind Master to watch out for sinkholes. He politely asked the Wind Master to lend him some powers. The Wind Master quickly reached out, and the two clapped their hands together. Xie Lian used the borrowed power to roast the giant worm. Yum. In Thailand, you can actually eat worms off the streets. I haven't tried them, though. No, you can't pay me to try them. The surge of power caused the cavern to start to collapse in itself. A rumble is heard, signaling that their time is limited. In a panic, the Wind Master frantically looked for an exit and found none as they are surrounded by compact earth and puddles. Xie Lian calmly looked for a way out and found a tile on the ground. He immediately kneeled down to better observe the tile. The Wind Master was alarmed by Xie Lian's movement, to which Xie Lian urged him to give him a minute, as the Wind Master lights up the fire to keep the giant earthworms at bay. He begs Xie Lian to hurry it if he does not want this cavern to be his final resting place. Xie Lian exclaimed in excitement as he was able to make out the drawing of a child playing dice on the tile. The Wind Master was elated at Xie Lian's discovery and begged him to immediately throw the dice. As the dice rolled, the image on the tile gradually changed. As the giant earthworms approach, it blurs together with their surroundings. The Wind Master looked down at the tile and blurted out his bafflement at the image on the tile. It appeared to be figures of men dancing around a lone figure. Xie Lian told him to disregard the image. The first thing they should do is to get out of this death trap of a cave. Xie Lian stepped on the tile just in time as the giant worms slammed down on them in synchrony. A light erupted from the tile, and the two cultivators fell down another rabbit hole. Where did Alice go? The two cultivators are helpless as they keep falling down. They soon slammed down on the hard ground. They appear to be in a lush forest. The Wind Master exclaimed expletives as he painfully hit the ground. Xie Lian worriedly asked him if he was all right. Bent over with a haggard look, the Wind Master can't tell Xie Lian if he is well. Holding his back like an old man, The Lord Wind Master complained to Xie Lian that this is the first time he had fallen from such a height. He looked at Xie Lian with a dazed look as he exclaimed how exciting it is to work with His Highness. I think he's finally realizing how Xie Lian's luck can extend to his co-workers. Xie Lian awkwardly laughed at the Wind Master's remark. Their peaceful banter did not last long as a group of horned individuals sprung from the bushes. These are barbarians that eat people. The two run for their lives, wanting to keep their flesh intact. The Wind Master breathlessly told Xie Lian that these must be the cannibals his brother told him about, seeing as they are being chased. Xie Lian agrees to the possibility that these barbarians are out to get their meat. The Wind Master asked if they could just fight them off. Running seems to be futile. Xie Lian cautioned him to not break the rules. Heavenly officials are not allowed to harm mortals. He tells the Wind Master to focus on finding another tile and to be more level-headed. A spear flies towards them, nicking the Wind Master's face. The Wind Master stopped in his tracks, which surprised Xie Lian. The barbarians loomed closer as the Wind Master touched his wounded face. Having had enough of these barbarians, the Wind Master brought out his fan and faced the mob of cannibals. His face showed his impatience at their impertinence for not cowering at his feet and even having the gall to ruin his beautiful face. With a sweep of his fan, a giant wind blew off the hungry barbarian in the air. He's pissed. I'd be pissed too. Can't blame him. The wind blew off the barbarians to the skies, and they became only mere specks from where Xie Lian stood. There's no way they'd live through that. The Wind Master justified his actions by telling Xie Lian that the barbarians deserved the punishment. I agree, they deserve it. I would not want to be eaten. The Wind Master turned around and walked forward, telling Xie Lian to follow him to look for the way out. In exasperation, Xie Lian combed through his hair, thinking how tough it is to be a heavenly official. It seems that being a god or a ghost does not exempt anyone from having a hard time. The two found the tile, which led them back to the dungeons of Wachung's manor. Xie Lian explains that the mechanism of the tiles is similar to the distance-shortening array. The difference is that the tile doors have a twist. Depending on the result, you will be directed to different places whenever the dice is rolled. Xie Lian wondered if they rolled the dice correctly this time, as they haven't encountered any monsters or man-eating barbarians. The Wind Master commented that shortening the distance between 2 points requires a lot of spiritual powers. He suspects that Crimson Rain Sought Flower must have constructed such a complicated mechanism to prevent others from finding his secret. His great power is being used to orchestrate grand schemes. Xie Lian does not respond to the Wind Master but thinks to himself that this is all an elaborate trick brought about by San Long's playfulness. San Long seems to be the type to toy with his enemies. It does serve the purpose of getting his enemies confused and irritated. He sighed whilst keeping his observation to himself. A hand stopped him in his tracks. It is the Wind Master. Surprised, Xie Lian looked at the Wind Master with a questioning look. The Wind Master sniffed the air. Xie Lian finally caught on and smelled blood. Deep in the tunnel of the labyrinthine dungeon, a heavenly official dressed in black breathed heavily. He sat slumped on the ground. The sound of footsteps alerted him, and he bravely told the shadows that he had no intention to divulge any information. The Wind Master used his power to light up the dungeon. He was surprised by the person imprisoned in this manner. Xie Lian asked if the two knew each other, to which the heavenly official slumped on the ground denied. He does not want to be associated with the Wind Master. This remark offended the Wind Master greatly as he exclaims that they are best friends. The heavenly official, identified as Mingxing, deadpanned that he is not associated with someone who dresses in sheer revealing clothes. The Wind Master got burned. Xie Lian calmed down the Wind Master with a tap on his shoulder. He asks if this person is the Lord Earth Master, Mingyi. The Wind Master affirmed and told Xie Lian that they'd met before. Xing is a suffix that means elder brother. It's just a term of endearment from the Wind Master. The Lord Earth Master, Mingyi, promptly denied this with his head bowed in shame. Why would he deny meeting Xie Lian? The Wind Master obnoxiously insisted that they had indeed been acquainted and revealed that Xie Lian met him at Half Moon Pass. It's the other female official who aided them at the Sinner's Pit. The Earth Master probably got bullied into transforming into a woman and wants to forget it ever happened. Poor guy. Xie Lian awkwardly made the connection. The Wind Master seems to have a penchant for forcing those he works with to transform into a woman. The Earth Master let out an embarrassed cough, which eventually became hacking fits. He began to bend over as he coughed up. The Wind Master ran to him worriedly. Xie Lian asked if it was the Earth Master who unleashed the fiery dragon, to which the Earth Master affirmed. Xie Lian nods in understanding, relieved that they found the correct person. The Wind Master helped the slumped heavenly official up by his shoulder and urged them to leave immediately. Xie Lian commented on how severe the Earth Master's wounds appear to be and told them to make haste. They will figure out what happened later. So, did Wachung kidnap him? The three walked along the tunnel, looking for an exit. The Wind Master turned to the Earth Master, asking him how he was defeated when he's very good at fighting. The last time they saw each other at Banya Pass. He was in perfectly good condition. He cannot make heads or tails on how the Earthmaster could have garnered Hua Cheng's ire. What could have made Hua Cheng lock him up? The Earthmaster rudely shut him up, appearing to be embarrassed by the barrage of questions. Xie Lian looked at them in amusement. The two appeared to be friends by how they interacted with each other. They chanced upon a jade plate similar to the plate they found in the garden. The Earthmaster slumped on the Windmaster's back, unconscious. It is up to the two heavenly officials to get them out of the dungeon. Xie Lian reached inside his sleeves for the dice and threw them on the plate. He was met with silence for a while. The Windmaster looked on in anticipation as a streak of light appears on the wall. A door emerges from where the plate is located on the wall. Xie Lian took the dice and tucked them back in his sleeves. He wonders if he has enough time to take Longying with him. He absently steps towards the door, only to be surprised as he hurls down from the ceiling. He tried to grab the doors to keep him from falling, only for his hand to slip through. He warns the others to not go through the door. With all his strength, he instinctively grabbed at the red curtains hanging from the ceiling, but to no avail as the flimsy fabric tears, plummeting Xie Lian to the ground. He waits for the painful impact to the ground, only to be disappointed as two hands extend to cushion his fall. When no pain came, he opened his eyes only to be met by none other than the master of Paradise Manor, San Long. San Long is carrying him bridal style. San Long looked at him dashingly as he raised an eyebrow. It's not every day that a heavenly official falls on his lap. From above, Xie Lian can see feet dangling from the ceiling. The Windmaster thought it best to not heed his warning and went through the door. Wanting to divert San Long's attention, Xie Lian reached out his hand, seemingly embracing the Ghost King. This startled San Long. Apologizing to his newfound friend, Xie Lian put all his weight on his back so that they both toppled down the raised dais. They rolled on the floor, allowing the Windmaster to land gracefully on the dais with the Earthmaster slumped on his shoulders. Xie Lian looked behind him to make sure that the Windmaster was able to land safely. Finally realizing the position he's in, he looks down at the Ghost King spread out beneath him. OMG. We're finally getting the BL stuff we paid for. Xie Lian sat atop the Ghost King, mortified by his actions and the position he finds himself in. The thick-faced fallen god blushed profusely. He repeatedly apologized to the Ghost King, whom he somehow defiled as he jumped up in embarrassment and mortification. Xie Lian looked around as he pulled the red curtain off of him. He notices that Longying is seated on a chair against a wall. Xie Lian runs over to the bandaged boy he pledged to take care of, asking him if he is all right. He asks if the child caused any trouble. The child trembles as he stares at Xie Lian, which makes Xie Lian confused. The boy was pulling at his robes earlier. What could have changed? Xie Lian waved his hand at the boy's face, wanting his attention. The Windmaster watches him fawn over the child and tells him that Xie Lian does not need to be polite to the manor's master. He believes that Hua Cheng is behind the disappearance of the Earthmaster. Hua Cheng asks who the Earthmaster is and coyly asks if he is referring to the black-clad man slung over the Windmaster's back. He let out a condescending laugh as he asked why a heavenly official would lower himself to serve the vicious king of Ghost City. He lets on that the Earthmaster must have been patiently biding his time as he worked for him for 10 long years. This is news to the Windmaster. Hua Cheng lets on that in the past 10 years, he had been suspicious of his supposed servant but had no proof of his suspicion. It was at Banya Pass that he recognized him. Xie Lian begged San Long to turn a blind eye to the Earthmaster's action. He cannot afford to have a heavenly official die in Ghost City as it will weave discord with the heavenly realm. Hua Cheng cuts him off and warns him to not interfere. This silenced Xie Lian as he and the Windmaster searched their heads for a counterargument or ways to get out of this alive. The Windmaster quietly calls forth his power to blow a gust of wind, causing the destruction of Paradise Manor. The opulent manor blew up from within with a resounding boom. Seemingly unaffected by the chaos in his own place, Hua Cheng sized up his opponent, playfully letting the Windmaster know that he, too, owns a fan. With a snap of his wrist, he brings out a fan far more ornate than the Windmaster's. He flips the fan, and sharp dagger-like projectiles assault the Windmaster, causing him to struggle. The Windmaster gauges the situation and realizes that his wind is not enough to lift them up. Using his fan, the Windmaster extended his hand to counter Hua Cheng's attack. Meanwhile, Xie Lian uses his body to cover Longying from the flying debris. He begged the Windmaster to stop his attacks. A broadsword struck from above his spiritual power emits from the center of the manor. The roof collapsed at the intensity of such power, and from the center of destruction, booted feet steps in. It is Long Qianqiu, the Lord Taiwa. With the broadsword poised above his shoulders, he apologized to the Windmaster for not being able to sit still. His countenance poised a dramatic, majestic figure as he came to their rescue. Ecstatic at the arrival of their comrade, the Windmaster expressed his relief at seeing Qianqiu. The arrival of another heavenly official did not prevent San Long from laughing humorously at the clowns. I meant heavenly officials, with the exception of Xie Lian, of course. He taunts them for being frugal and ignorant, for being unable to leave at the sight of gold. He must be referring to his golden fans, golden projectiles. Qian Chu, who is easily provoked, stepped forward to confront Hua Cheng. He readies the broadsword, preparing to strike, and charges at the Ghost King, who is the epitome of devastation. He gathers powers at the tip of his sword as he charges forward, seemingly offended at Hua Cheng's taunts. Hua Cheng stood casually in front of Qian Chu, seemingly uncaring of the heavenly official charging towards him. Out of nowhere, he brought out his saber, Yiming. Its red eye, full of malicious intent, opens up. Xie Lian can feel the intensity of the saber's power and can easily tell that Lord Taiwa is no match. The Wind Master shouted at him to not block Yiming, but it was for naught. The hot-headed Qian Chu charges toward the devastation-level ghost, raising his broadsword in the air. Hua Cheng is poised for attack. His posture betrays the ease with which he handles his weapon. This is child's play to him. As light emits from the weapons about to clash with each other, the two opposing figures briefly see each other's expression. The heavenly god was too eager, while the devastation ghost looked at him bemused. With a clash, an explosion erupted at the once majestic banquet hall. Xie Lian used firepower to cause a distraction as he urged the Wind Master to use his wind to propel them up in the sky. With all his might, the Wind Master used his remaining power to call forth his wind to lift himself up. The Earth Master slung to his back and pulled Long Ying up by his clothes. Roy stretches out from Xie Lian, and the Wind Master, Earth Master, and Long Ying are all tied up by the waist. The Wind Master rubs the debris off his eye until he can see clearly. He angrily aimed another gust of his winds to fan the flames, causing an even bigger explosion at the Ghost King's manor. Oh no, San Long's place was destroyed. Xie Lian holds onto Royu as it hangs off the other's waists. The Lord Taiwa safely tucked to his side. He looks down apologetically at the friend he made, wanting to convey his regrets for being part of such chaos in his friend's home. The Ghost King takes a step, unbothered by the destruction, his expression displeased. I hope he does not hate Xie Lian for this. As if 4 heavenly officials and 1 ghost breezed through the air on a cloud. A full moon hangs behind them. The Lord Wind Master exclaimed at Xie Lian's injuries. The former Crown Prince of Xian bleeds through his arm. The Wind Master connects the injury to the bright light that erupted when Qian Chu and Hua Cheng clashed swords. He realized that it was Xie Lian who separated the two, saving Qian Chu from being obliterated by the devastation-level ghost. Xie Lian huffed a sigh, pointing out that he is a martial god after all. The Wind Master realized how true this statement is. Xie Lian is known as the Flower Crown Martial God, who holds a sword in one hand and flowers in the other. It is easy to forget about his status as a swordsman as one gets distracted by the flowers. For all of Xie Lian's soft bearing, it was his swordsmanship that led to his ascension. Xie Lian trembles as he endures the pain. The Wind Master felt dread in the pit of his stomach as he realized that without Xie Lian, Long Qian Chu would have met his end at the hands of Hua Cheng. He glances back to the defeated god, who sat morosely facing the other way. The Wind Master wondered if the young god is still reeling from Crimson Rain-sought Flower's attack. Long Qian Chu, Lord Taiwa, sat on the cloud in a daze. He recalls how he was saved. As he swung his sword, Xie Lian approached quickly from behind. He drew his sword to fling Qian Chu's broadsword aside. He remembers as Xie Lian sidesteps to clash his sword with Yiming, breaking his sword in the process. Such a move is hard to replicate. There can be no other who can move like that. No other than the Grand Tutor, the one who destroyed Yang'an. At the Palace of Divine Might in the heavenly capital, heavenly officials are gathered, unaware of what they are being called there for. An official lets out a yawn, bored at this pointless affair. Suddenly, the grand doors opened as feet rushed forward in a panic. One heavenly official calls out to the gathered throng that one of them is severely injured. Scratch that. There are 2 that are injured. Xie Lian assures the Wind Master that he is fine and tells them to focus on the Earth Master as his injuries are far graver than his. They laid the Earth Master down on the raised dais. Qian Chu, the Lord Taiwa, follows them slowly, almost as if he is dragging his feet, his face unreadable. Gone is his impatience and exuberance. Xie Lian noticed this. Worried that Qian Chu may have been injured, he approached him to check his well-being. A hand grabbed at his wrist as the Crown Prince of Xian looked at him hatefully. The Wind Master was alarmed at his behavior and asked what was wrong. Qian Chu let out a humorless chuckle as he hatefully spat the name of the tutor he used to look up to and hated with his whole being. He addressed Xie Lian as the Grand Tutor. There was silence as the crowd did not understand what he meant. When it finally clicked, it caused a stir amongst the gathered heavenly officials. There were 2 Grand Tutors, Banya of Half Moon Pass and Feng Xin. The Lord Taiwa would, therefore, be referring to the Grand Tutor from his time, Feng Xin, the demonic Grand Tutor who destroyed Yang'an. It somehow clicks, but Xianla being destroyed by Yang'an. Xie Lian became Feng Xin to pose as the Crown Prince's tutor with the full intention of destroying Yangon. As the story progresses, the events during Xie Lian's 800 years of exile slowly unravel. It makes sense for one to take revenge for the destruction of his country, but Xie Lian does not seem the type. Long Qianchu looks at him with hate. His voice is full of disdain as he lets on how he killed and buried Xie Lian himself. He can't believe that the Grand Tutor is Xie Lian, the Crown Prince of Xian. He never understood why the Grand Tutor did what he did. He did not believe for a second that the Grand Tutor was after his position. But now, knowing that it was Xie Lian all along, he understands that it was all for revenge. The Wind Master came between them, wanting to bring order to this ordeal. Ever the voice of reason, he tells Qianchu to calm down and think this through. If Xie Lian was the Grand Tutor, wouldn't Qianchu, who studied under the tutor for years, recognize his face instantly? Qianchu cedes but does not answer. It was Pei Ming who approached to tell them that the Grand Tutor never showed his face to Qianchu. The Grand Tutor Feng Xin was a mysterious being who always wore a silver mask. From behind the dais, the Heavenly Emperor approached with his aides trailing him from behind. The Heavenly Emperor pointed out that Lord Taiwa had never seen the Grand Tutor's face. This guy is always on Xie Lian's side like a doting father. The gathered heavenly officials hastily bowed to Daddy Junwu. I meant the Heavenly Emperor. His sharp eyes studied his surroundings as he levels each official with his gaze. He orders his attendants to take care of the Earthmaster's injuries. I completely forgot about him. If I were the Earthmaster, I'd be like, can you guys fight later? I'm dying here. As the attendants lift the unconscious Earthmaster to a waiting stretcher, the Heavenly Emperor stands tall, directing his attention toward Qianchu and Xie Lian. Like a father chastising two rowdy boys, he asks what matter of dissonance he needs to handle this time. The Heavenly Emperor asks why Lord Taiwa is holding on to Xie Lian's wrist and why Xie Lian is bowing. He approached Xie Lian, and without hesitation, the Heavenly Emperor pats Xianla's Crown Prince's shoulder to heal his injured arm. It's like he's making it obvious who his favorite child is. Xie Lian holds his arm as it slowly heals. Qianchu, finally recalling his manners, raised his hands in respect to the Heavenly Emperor. He explains how Xie Lian took the name Feng Xin and became the Grand Tutor of Yangon. He recounts the story of how this man betrayed them. At the banquet, he killed Qianchu's family and destroyed Yangon. Did Xie Lian really do that? I can't believe it. Qianchu cut to the chase and expressed what he wanted. He wants to challenge Xie Lian to a duel, witnessed by Junwu, the Heavenly Emperor himself. The Heavenly Emperor's cold gray eyes look down at Qianchu. His expression is unreadable as he asks what evidence Lord Taiwa has to prove that Xie Lian is the Grand Tutor. The Lord Taiwa closed his eyes as he recounted his fight with Hua Cheng during their undercover mission at Ghost City. He explains that as their swords clash, Xie Lian was able to separate them. The moves are hard to replicate as they will result in no harm between the opposing figures but cause harm to the one who uses the technique. No other will use such moves. He tells them of the first time he saw those moves. When Qianchu was a boy, he was kidnapped by bandits. When his guards were able to follow, they fought fiercely with the bandits. Luckily, a street performer came to their rescue. The street performer was able to deflect two swords, saving his life. He was then returned to the palace. In gratitude, the king and queen of Yangon gave him a place in the palace as the Grand Tutor. For 5 years, the Grand Tutor taught him swordsmanship. Qianchu remembers how he wanted to learn the technique he saw when he was saved from the bandits. But the Grand Tutor refused. He was told that a crown prince does not need to learn the technique. He insisted that it was those moves that made him Grand Tutor. He can't mistake it for any other. The gathered officials tried to formulate their own theories of Xie Lian's motive. While it makes sense for the Crown Prince of Xianla to avenge his country, it does not make sense for him to teach the Crown Prince of Yangon. They surmised that they had never seen Xie Lian take out his sword, for he must be afraid of being exposed. From the throng, a voice called for the attention of Lord Taiwa. It was Mu Qing, General Xuanzhen, one of Xie Lian's former followers. He pointed out that Lord Taiwa presented everything from his own point of view. No one else has seen the shadow he was referring to. As he says this, Fu Yao, also known as General Nanyang, tells him not to add fuel to the fire. I guess these two still care for Xie Lian. Not wanting to back down, Lord Taiwa asked to borrow 2 swords from the crowd. 2 swords were thrown at him, which he quickly grabbed with one hand. He unsheathes one sword as he faces Xie Lian and uses it to injure his own arm. What? Why would he do that? He claims that he is returning the favor he got from Xie Lian, referring to the fact that Xie Lian injured his own arm to save him. So, an arm for an arm. Xie Lian was surprised at what Qianchu did. Qianchu challenged Xie Lian in a duel using only their left hand. He is aware of Xie Lian's skills and ability to wield a sword using either hand. He wants them to duel so that the gathered heavenly officials can compare their techniques. As the Grand Tutor was his master, their techniques and swordsmanship would be identical. He throws the other sword at Xie Lian's feet and orders him to pick it up and accept the challenge like a man. Xie Lian looks at him gently as he expresses his unwillingness to fight. He cautioned Qianchu that if they fight, Qianchu will surely meet his untimely death. Xie Lian is never the type to brag, so for him to say that Qianchu will lose to him, he must be saying this as a matter of fact. Xie Lian explains that he made a vow to never kill using a sword ever again. This angered Qianchu. He insists he only wanted a duel, which does not need to be a battle to reach the other's demise. Qianchu grips his sword tightly and prepares to make the first move. The Wind Master hastily stopped him, pleading with him to calm down. He reasons that as the Grand Tutor was wearing a mask, there's a possibility that someone else might be responsible for the killings. He asked Qianchu to wait for Junwu's verdict. The Heavenly Emperor's cold face looks down at them as he calls Xie Lian. He calls him Xianla. His voice was unwavering as he asked if it was Xie Lian who was responsible for killing the people at the gilded banquet and if he was the Grand Tutor per the accusations of Qianchu. Like a father asking his child to spill his wrongdoings, he addressed Xie Lian. Xie Lian is brought back to unpleasant memories. A man bearing a silver mask looms above a king on a gilded throne. His sword hovers above the king's heart, dead bodies at his feet. His face turns to look behind him, his features familiar. Xie Lian raised his eyes towards Junwu. Like a cowed child, he admits to his crimes. How? Sweet Xie Lian was a murderer. No way. This admission shocked everyone, including the two who stood by Xie Lian long ago. Chatter erupted across the spacious hall as everyone shared their theories and take on the matter. Xie Lian faced the emperor to ask him a favor. He wished to be demoted from his heavenly official status and sent back to the mortal realm. Qianchu objected, telling Xie Lian that there was no need for demotion. He understands that Xie Lian ascended using his own merit. This guy is actually decent. He just wants a duel. The Wind Master voiced his suspicions out loud, hoping the others would listen. He thinks that there is something more to the story. The emperor heard him and ordered him to elaborate. The Wind Master readily obliged. He explains that it would appear that Xie Lian became the Grand Tutor to take revenge on Yang'an. If Xie Lian really wanted to avenge his people, there was no need for him to leave the Crown Prince alive. If you think about it, the best first step to start his revenge is by killing the nation's Crown Prince. The Wind Master vouched for Xie Lian. They may not be close, but he saw how Xie Lian protected Qianchu from Huacheng's saber. If someone hates Lord Taiwa so much, it does not make sense for one to save him, causing harm to himself. He directs this question to Qianchu to make him see reason. The gathered throng speculated that Xie Lian must have felt guilt after killing Qianchu's family. The others assumed that Xie Lian hated Qianchu so much that he left him alive to suffer the loss of his loved ones. Others thought that they might be wrong about Xie Lian being dumb and that there is more to him apart from being a laughingstock. Junwu called for order amidst the speculative crowd. He chastised Qianchu for being impulsive and lectured him to listen and use his judgment first before acting rashly. He ordered Qianchu to stay away from Xie Lian at the moment. Junwu agreed with the Wind Master that this matter has a lot of holes in it. He declined Xie Lian's request for demotion and ordered his movements to be restricted within his palace. So, he puts Xie Lian on house arrest. He helped put everyone's minds at ease by assuring them that he will interrogate Xie Lian himself. He ordered everyone to leave the matter as it is for now and bid them farewell. Everyone acquiesced, and one by one, the heavenly officials left the hall. General Pei Ming adjusted his vambraces as he expressed his jealousy that Xie Lian received the Wind Master's support. Still, his family's little Pei got none of the Wind Master's sympathy. The Wind Master ran after him to chastise him for little Pei's situation is different and that Pei Ming should stop implying such inaccuracies. Qianchu, the Crown Prince of Xian, approached the sword he threw at Xie Lian. He gathered the borrowed swords with one hand. As he stands, he tells Xie Lian that he is not retracting his challenge. One day, they will duel. He turns around and hands the swords to a waiting attendant as two guards approach Xie Lian to detain him. It was a peaceful day at Xianla Palace. The castle stood tall amidst the beautiful landscape as the god within sat at a desk facing a round window with a clear view of the sky. He rolls the dice, insistently testing his luck. He sighs as he realizes that the luck that San Long lent him has finally run out. With nothing to do, he sighs in boredom. His thoughts wander to the boy, Long Ying. He notes that he does not need to worry about the boy as the emperor knows of the boy's situation. The Wind Master is busy with the events at Banya Pass, and there's probably no need to worry about Pei Ming. The last on his list of worries, and probably the most pressing, is how he can make up for indirectly causing the destruction of Paradise Manor. The image of the burning manor imprints itself upon Xie Lian's eyes, and he wonders if it was burned to the ground. Xie Lian makes a plan that if he gets demoted again, he will do whatever he can to pay for the damages. He'll even sell scraps to pay it off, regardless of how long it takes. His thoughts were interrupted by the ruckus outside. Two voices are heard shouting at each other. One addresses General Nanyang, chastising him for acting hurt. The other screams at him to shut his trap. In contrast, the other mockingly responded how fake the other is for finding a plausible excuse to stop being Xie Lian's follower. Xie Lian already knows whose voices those are. They are none other than his former followers. He stood up to greet the two. The ruckus did not end with screaming. Fists were thrown, provoked by his former comrade, General Nanyang, also known as Feng Xin, threw the first fist at Mu Qing. He is upset at being misunderstood. He accuses Mu Qing of wanting Xie Lian to walk down a dark path and intends to oust Xie Lian. This angered Mu Qing, for Fu Yao is looking down on him. Mu Qing is insecure about his servant background. For some reason, Fu Yao never showed him respect due to this, despite them working together as Xie Lian's main followers. Xie Lian decided to put an end to their squabbling. He threatens to alert a guard or another heavenly official to stop them from fighting. The two ignored Xie Lian's threat as they continued pulverizing each other's faces. Out of nowhere, a silver butterfly appeared in hordes, bringing with them heaven's most unwanted guest. He came to collect his bride. A barrage of silver butterflies attacked the two fighting officials. Quick on his feet, Feng Xin used his spiritual powers to block the horde of butterflies. He not only protected himself, he also kept Mu Qing from harm's way. Oh, I knew they cared for each other in their own special way. As the two opened their eyes, they saw His Highness, the Crown Prince of Xian, just standing there, unharmed by the deadly throng of mass destruction. Not only that, he holds a silver butterfly in his open palms, looking at them with a confused expression. It's as if he does not understand why the two are on high alert. He lets go of the lone butterfly from his open palms and lets it fly off. Two hands appear from the portal behind him, wrapping around his waist. The two heavenly officials shouted at him to watch out, but to no avail. They watched as Xie Lian was dragged to the portal by hands in silver vambraces, a red string wrapped around one finger. Wachung got what he came for, his bride. The portal snapped closed, disappearing from sight. The two hastily entered the communication array in the hopes of reaching Xie Lian. Fu Yao frantically called for Xie Lian in the array, looking for him. This alarmed the other officials, and asked him what is wrong. Mu Qing answered that a strange thing had happened at Xie Lian's palace. He seeks Ling Wan and instructed the others to report the matter to the Heavenly Emperor. Inside the communication array, it was chaos. Ling Wan quickly informed them that she will be heading to Xianla Palace to investigate. Another official commented that Xie Lian is supposed to be detained. The Wind Master shared that there is no way anyone can get out as guards and barriers surround the palace of Xianla. Feng Xin exclaimed that Xie Lian did not escape. He was kidnapped. Then, he repeatedly called out for Xie Lian. It was unbelievable. As one official comments, who would dare kidnap a detained heavenly official? It took a resounding chuckle full of malicious intent to silence the officials in the array. Wachung leans down as two of his fingers touched Xie Lian's temple. He leans down on the Crown Prince, his forehead touching his, invading his personal space. His face is too close. You may kiss your bride. He greets the officials in the array. It was far from a friendly greeting. It is menacing and full of contempt. His voice alone brought shivers to their spines. He asked if he was missed, for he certainly did not miss any of them. He implies that he will welcome any official who dares challenge him. This greeting was met with silence, and the array connecting Xie Lian's thoughts with the other officials disconnects with a snap. Xie Lian is unafraid of San Long as he calls for him to gauge his intentions. The Ghost King tells him to come with him and to not mind the other officials. San Long's silver tassels jingle as they walk. Underneath the full moon, the jingling of the tassels makes for a surreal ambience. Xie Lian deduced that San Long must have used a teleportation device to connect Xianla Palace to the outskirts of Heavenly Court. He wonders how the Ghost King achieved such a feat. Without hesitation, he followed the Ghost King. He furtively glanced at the Ghost King's back and lets out a sigh. He decides that it is best if he apologizes first. He came out clean and told San Long outright why he visited the Ghost City. He admits that he came to look for clues for the Earth Master's disappearance. He apologized to San Long for indirectly causing the burning of the Ghost King's manor. He promises to pay him back for what he owes him after he gets demoted. The Ghost King halted in his steps and asked why would Xie Lian want to repay him. He pointed out that his sword injured Xie Lian's arm. He went as far as telling Xie Lian that it was he who owes Xie Lian, not the other way around. Xie Lian was struck dumb by the Ghost King's sincerity. He was baffled by this declaration. He countered that it was not San Long's fault he hurt his arm. It was Xie Lian who decided to block the two swords, causing injury to himself. From Wachung's hip, the saber Yiming vibrated, its eye half open, as if about to shed tears. Xie Lian asked what's going on while San Long quickly slapped the saber. He tells him nothing is wrong and to ignore the saber's dramatic outburst. Yiming was shaken that he hurt Xie Lian. Curious about how the dice work, Xie Lian asked San Long about the dice he received from San Long. He recounts how the 2 dice were rolled, with one landing on the number 2. He asks if it means he can see San Long whenever he rolls a 2. San Long quickly answered that it was not the case. Xie Lian was disappointed that his deductions were wrong and awkwardly scratched his face. San Long explains that if Xie Lian wants to see him, it won't matter which numbers he rolls. San Long assures Xie Lian that he will be there no matter what. The answer surprised Xie Lian as he followed the Ghost King. Hua Cheng stops in his tracks and blocks Xie Lian with one hand. A broadsword shoots down their path and lands with the blade buried to the ground. A flash of lightning follows in its wake, spreading bolts of energy in all directions as it hits the ground. The bolt of lightning cackles as it softens, covering the sword with quiet intensity. Long Qianqiu, the Lord Taiwa, appears before them. His countenance is befitting of a god. Spiritual energy flows around his being, his hand reaching behind his back for his broadsword. He addresses Xie Lian as Grand Tutor, ordering him to pick up his sword and fight. By hook or by crook, he's going to have his duel. Qianqiu just can't take no for an answer. I wonder what Hua Cheng will do to him this time.